Today's story is about a guy who spent 2.5 years being somebody's whole support system. Drove through snowstorms for her, stayed up all night at hospitals, planned trips when she was stressed, paid half the rent like clockwork. And then he found out she'd been telling her fancy new coworkers he was basically her roommate. A convenience thing. The guy who helps with rent. That's a direct quote. So he decided to do something brilliant. He made her version of events come true. And the way he pulled it off is why I love this channel. Let's get into it. My girlfriend told her coworkers I was just her roommate, so I made it official. So yeah, this happened, and I'm still kind of processing it, but I figured Reddit would appreciate this one. Because honestly, looking back, it's almost funny. Almost. I'm Caleb, 29. I work in HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. For people who don't know what that means, I'm the guy who shows up when your AC dies in July and you're sitting in your living room sweating through your third shirt of the day. It's not glamorous. My hands are rough, my truck smells like refrigerant, and I come home with grease under my nails pretty much every single day. But I'm good at it. Been doing it since I was 21. Got my certifications, built up a solid client list, and I pull in decent money. Not rich by any stretch, but I pay my bills, I've got savings, and I don't owe anybody anything. I was proud of that. Still am. My girlfriend Lauren and I had been together for 2.5 years. Met at a friend's cookout. She was 26, had this big laugh that you could hear from across the yard, and she roasted me within 5 minutes of meeting me because I put ketchup on a hot dog like a little kid. I told her at least I wasn't eating a burger with a fork and knife like some kind of alien pretending to be human. She laughed so hard she almost choked. We exchanged numbers that night, and were pretty much inseparable after that. Lauren was working as an office assistant at a small insurance company when we started dating. Normal job, normal hours. We'd get home around the same time, cook dinner together, argue about what to watch, fall asleep on the couch by 10. Classic boring couple stuff, and I loved every second of it. Her family liked me. My mom thought she was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We moved in together after about a year because we were already spending every night at one place or the other, and paying 2 rents felt stupid. Life was good. Real good. Then about 8 months ago, Lauren got a new job. She landed a position as an administrative coordinator at this high-end real estate firm downtown. The kind of place where everyone drives a European car, and the office has exposed brick and a cappuccino machine that probably costs more than my truck payment. She was pumped, and honestly, I was pumped for her. Better pay, better title, actual career trajectory. I took her out to celebrate, told her I was proud of her, because I was. At first, nothing really changed. She'd come home and tell me about the office, the agents, the listings. She was learning a lot and seemed excited about it. But after maybe a month or so, I started noticing little things. Tiny shifts that by themselves meant nothing but together started painting a picture I didn't want to look at. First, it was the clothes. Lauren had always dressed nice, but now she was spending serious money on outfits. New heels, new bags, new everything. She said she needed to look the part, which I understood. You work in a fancy office, you dress fancy? Fine. But then she started making comments about my clothes too. Not mean exactly, but pointed. Like I'd be wearing my usual jeans and flannel on a Saturday and she'd go, "You know they make shirts with buttons, right?" Or we'd be heading to dinner, and she'd look at my boots and say, "Maybe leave the work boots at home tonight." Little jabs wrapped in a smile. Then it was the weekends. Lauren started getting invited to things with her coworkers. Dinners, open houses that were really just parties for rich people, networking events at places I'd never heard of. At first, she'd invite me. But after I showed up to one of these things in my cleanest jeans and a button-down that I actually ironed, things got weird real fast. Lauren introduced me to maybe 2 people the entire night. Both times she said, "This is Caleb," and then immediately changed the subject before anyone could ask what I did for a living. At one point, I was standing by myself near the food table. They had these tiny sandwiches that were honestly pretty solid, and overheard one of the agents ask Lauren who I was. She said, "Oh, that's just my +1. Not my boyfriend, not Caleb, just her +1. Like I was a warm body filling a seat. I watched her work the room that night, laughing with people, doing that thing where she tilts her head and makes whoever she's talking to feel like the most important person alive. She used to do that with me. Now I was the guy standing alone eating appetizers, wondering if anyone would notice if I left. Nobody would have. I started getting the hint after that. The next event she got invited to, she just said, "It's more of a work thing, you'd be bored." I said okay and didn't push it. Then it happened more and more. Every Friday she had somewhere to be with the work people. Saturday afternoons turned into open house events. Sunday brunches with the girls from the office. I went from seeing my girlfriend every day to basically being her roommate, who she sometimes ate dinner with if she wasn't too tired from networking. I tried talking to her about it once. Just casual. "Hey, we haven't really hung out in a while. Want to do something this weekend? Just us?" She looked at me like I'd asked her to solve a calculus problem. I have that showing on Saturday, and then Jenna invited me to this paint class thing on Sunday. Maybe next weekend. Next weekend never came. But here's the thing that really started eating at me. Her social media. Lauren used to post us all the time. Stupid selfies, pictures of dinners I cooked, that video of me trying to ice skate and eating it in front of a group of kids. Normal couple stuff. But slowly over a few months I just disappeared from her accounts. Not deleted, just no new posts with me in them. Meanwhile, her feed was filling up with photos from work events, dinners with coworkers, her in these outfits posing in front of houses that cost more than I'd make in 10 lifetimes. 3 months of posts and not a single photo of me. Not one mention. If you looked at her page, you'd think she was single. And I know how that sounds. Insecure boyfriend counting Instagram posts. But when you go from being someone's whole world to not even existing on their phone screen, it does something to you. The real gut punch came on a Tuesday night. Lauren was on the couch next to me on a phone call with one of her coworkers, Kenzie. She thought I had my headphones in playing a game on my phone. I did have my headphones in, but nothing was playing. I could hear everything. Kenzie asked her if she was bringing anyone to the firm's annual gala. Big fancy event, apparently. And Lauren laughed and said, "No, I'm going solo." Kenzie said, "What about your boyfriend?" And there was this pause. This tiny little pause that felt like it lasted an hour. And then Lauren said, "Oh, Caleb? No, he's more like my roommate at this point, honestly. We just share the apartment. It's not really like that anymore." Kenzie said, "Oh, I didn't know you guys broke up." And Lauren said, "It's complicated. We're not really together. It's more of a convenience thing. He helps with rent. 2.5 years. Holidays with each other's families. Inside jokes. That time I drove 4 hours in a snowstorm to pick her up when her car broke down on the highway. That time I stayed up all night with her when her grandma was in the hospital. That time I surprised her with a weekend trip because she'd been stressed. All of that reduced to, he helps with rent. I sat there on that couch, feeling like someone had poured ice water down my spine. She was 2 feet away from me laughing about something else now, completely unaware that I'd just heard every word. My first instinct was to confront her, turn around and say, "Are you serious right now?" But something stopped me. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the fact that I knew if I confronted her, she'd spin it. She'd say I was overreacting, that I took it out of context, that she was just being casual with a friend. And then somehow I'd end up apologizing for eavesdropping instead of her apologizing for erasing me from her life. So I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not the next day. Not the day after that. Hold on. This is me jumping in, not the OP. I need everyone to understand something about what just happened. This woman looked at a man who drove through a snowstorm for her, who sat in hospital waiting rooms at 3 a.m, and she called him her roommate. Her convenience. The guy who helps with rent. That's like calling the Mona Lisa a wall decoration. This is some NPC behavior. She ran through every dialogue option in the relationship and picked the worst one each time. She's not playing chess with this man's feelings. She's playing Candy Crush and calling it strategy. Anyway, it gets worse. Obviously. Instead of blowing up, I started watching. Paying attention in a way I hadn't been because I'd been too busy trying to convince myself everything was fine. And once I started looking, I couldn't stop seeing it. She never held my hand anymore. Not in public, not at home. She'd angle her phone away when texting. She stopped saying "I love you" unless I said it first. And even then it was this flat little "love you too" that sounded more like a reflex than a feeling. When her coworkers called, she'd go to the other room. She was building a whole separate life, and I was standing on the outside of it watching through the glass like some idiot who couldn't take a hint. One night we were having dinner, leftover pasta, nothing special, and I brought up a trip we'd been talking about for our 3-year anniversary. It was coming up in 2 months. We'd been saying for a while we wanted to go somewhere warm. I mentioned it casually, and she literally changed the subject. Didn't even acknowledge I'd said it. Just started talking about some listing the firm had gotten. I brought it up again the next day. She said, "Oh, we'll figure it out later. I'm really busy right now." Later never came, just like next weekend. The thing about being invisible in your own relationship is that at first you make excuses. She's busy. New job is stressful. She's adjusting. And then one day you stop making excuses and you just see it for what it is. She's not busy. She's not adjusting. She just doesn't want you around anymore. But she's too comfortable to be the one who ends it. About a week after the phone call, I was at a job site replacing ductwork in an older building downtown. It was a Thursday. Wait, no, Friday. Doesn't matter. During lunch, I walked to this sandwich shop around the corner and ran right into Kenzie, Lauren's coworker, the one from the phone call. She recognized me from the one work event I'd been to months ago and said, "Hey, you're Lauren's." She trailed off. I could see her trying to figure out what to call me. Lauren's what? Boyfriend? Roommate? Guy who helps with rent? I just said, "Yeah, I'm Caleb, Lauren's boyfriend." And I watched Kenzie's face do this thing where she clearly wanted to say something but didn't know how. She just went, "Oh, okay, cool. Tell her I said hi." But something about the way she looked at me. It wasn't pity exactly. It was more like she knew something I was supposed to know and felt weird about it. That night, Lauren was getting ready to go out. Some dinner thing with a client, she said. She looked incredible, honestly. New dress, hair done, the whole production. She barely glanced at me when she grabbed her keys. "Might be late. Don't wait up." She didn't even ask how my day was. After she left, I sat in our apartment for a long time. Just sat there in the quiet, looking around at this place that was supposed to be ours. Her stuff was everywhere, but it felt like I was already gone. Like she'd mentally moved me out months ago and was just waiting for my body to follow. And that's when I made the decision. Not in some dramatic movie moment way. There was no music, no rain on the window. I was just sitting there on the couch eating leftover pasta straight from the container and thought, yeah, I'm done. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a blow-up. No screaming match, no begging, no "what did I do wrong" conversation. She wanted a roommate? Fine. I'd give her exactly what she asked for. And then I'd give her nothing at all. The next day, I started making moves, quietly. I called my buddy Trent, who'd been telling me for months that the apartment above his garage was sitting empty if I ever needed a place. Told him I'd take it. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Come look at it after work." It was small but clean, and the rent was practically nothing, because Trent just wanted someone reliable up there. Then I started moving my stuff. Not all at once, that would have been obvious. Just a box here, a bag there. Clothes I knew she wouldn't notice were missing. My tools from the garage, important paperwork, my grandpa's watch from the nightstand. Every day I'd take a little more while she was at work or out with her new favorite people. She never noticed, not once. I took my entire winter coat collection out of the hall closet over 3 days. Gone. She walked past that closet every morning and never said a word. I removed the photos of us from my nightstand and replaced them with nothing. Just an empty surface. She slept next to that nightstand for a week straight and didn't blink. Actually, that's the part that messed me up the most. Not the phone call. Not the roommate comment. The fact that I could physically remove myself from the apartment piece by piece, and she didn't even notice. One night I tested it. I took the framed photo from our trip to the coast, the one she used to say was her favorite picture of us, and put it face down on the shelf. It stayed face down for 5 days before I just took it. She never flipped it back up, never asked about it. I went to the leasing office and had a conversation about getting my name off the lease. They said Lauren would need to sign a new one on her own, or find someone else to add. Her problem, not mine. I separated everything financial too. We had a joint account for bills. I redirected my deposits, canceled my half of the streaming services, the internet, the renter's insurance. Not to be petty, but because none of it was going to be my responsibility in about 2 weeks, and I wanted clean cuts. The whole time Lauren had no clue. She was too busy living her double life. Yo, time out. Can we just appreciate the surgical precision of this man's exit strategy? Most guys would have had a meltdown, thrown clothes out a window, sent a paragraph text at 2 in the morning. This dude had a spreadsheet and a buddy with a garage apartment. That's not a breakup. That's project management with a grudge. He's removing winter coats in 3-day intervals like he's running a covert extraction mission. Tom Cruise is somewhere taking notes. And the best part? She didn't notice anything. Not the coats, not the photos, not the empty nightstand. She was so checked out she wouldn't have noticed if he replaced himself with a cardboard cutout. Buckle up because the gala is next. About 10 days into my quiet exit plan, Lauren came home actually excited to talk to me for once. The firm's annual gala was coming up, big deal event at some hotel downtown, and she needed a favor. So my mom keeps asking if she's going to meet my boyfriend at this thing, she said, scrolling through her phone while talking to me. Her mom was friends with one of the firm's partners. That's how Lauren got the job in the first place. She's been telling people about you. I almost laughed. Oh, so I exist now? Lauren looked up. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. So you want me to come to the gala? She hesitated. It's just, my mom's been talking about you to people, and if you don't show up, it'll look weird. Can you just come and be normal? Be normal. Like my existence at her work event was a chore she needed to manage. Like bringing her boyfriend of 2.5 years to a party was some kind of damage control mission. Sure, I said. I'll be there. She looked relieved. Great. And maybe wear something nice? Like actually nice. Not just your clean jeans. I nodded and she went back to her phone. She had no idea she just handed me the perfect stage for the final act. The gala was on a Saturday. I spent that day moving the last of my important stuff to Trent's place. Everything I cared about was out of the apartment. What was left was furniture and things I didn't need. By the time I was getting dressed, my side of the closet was practically empty. She didn't notice because she was too busy doing her hair for 2 hours. I put on a suit, a real one, navy blue, fit well. I'd bought it for a friend's wedding about a year back. Cleaned up nice when I wanted to. When I came out of the bathroom, Lauren actually stopped and looked at me. Like really looked at me for the first time in months. Wow, you look good, she said. Almost sounded surprised. Thanks. You ready? We drove separately because she said she might need to stay late. Fine by me. I had my own plans for after. The event was exactly what you'd expect. Fancy hotel ballroom. People in expensive clothes holding tiny plates of food that wouldn't fill up a 10-year-old. Lauren found me as soon as I walked in and immediately started steering me around. This is Caleb, she'd say. My boyfriend. Huge smile. Hand on my arm. Like she was proud. Like she hadn't spent months pretending I didn't exist. Her mom came over and gave me a hug. Caleb, so good to see you. Lauren talks about you all the time. I looked at Lauren. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just smiled and squeezed my arm tighter. All the time, huh? I played along for about an hour. Shook hands, made small talk, laughed at jokes that weren't funny. And the whole time I watched Lauren perform. Because that's what it was. A performance. She was playing the role of devoted girlfriend for an audience, and I was the prop she needed to make it convincing. When no one important was looking, she'd drift away, check her phone, barely acknowledge me. The second someone from the firm walked by, she was glued to my side again. At one point, she was introducing me to some senior agent, and the guy asked what I did. Before I could even open my mouth, Lauren jumped in. Caleb works in building systems and climate solutions. I almost choked on my shrimp. Building systems and climate solutions? Lady, I fix air conditioners. But she couldn't say that, could she? Couldn't tell her fancy coworkers that her boyfriend crawls through attics and sweats through his shirt replacing compressors. Had to dress it up like everything else in her new life. I just smiled and nodded. Sure. Climate solutions. That's me. I ended up talking to Kenzie near the food tables. Lauren had wandered off to schmooze with some agent. Kenzie seemed like she wanted to say something. Kept looking over at Lauren, then back at me with this uncomfortable expression. You seem like a good guy, Caleb, she finally said. I just think you should know that. Whatever's going on with you and Lauren, you seem like a really good guy. I appreciate that, I said. And I meant it. She paused. She talks about you differently when you're not around. I didn't say anything. I know, she said quietly, and I'm sorry. That settled it. Not that I needed confirmation at that point. But hearing someone from her world acknowledge it out loud, yeah, the last little flicker of doubt went out. Pause for a second. Building systems and climate solutions. I'm crying. This woman literally rebranded her boyfriend like he was a struggling startup going through a pivot. She put a LinkedIn headline on this man in real time. What's next? She gonna list him on her resume under special skills. Managed a high-performing domestic partner with expertise in thermal regulation. Meanwhile, Caleb's standing there holding a tiny shrimp knowing full well his closet at home is empty, and she still hasn't figured it out. If composure was a superpower, this man would be in the Avengers. Captain Cool under pressure. Origin story. Girlfriend tried to rebrand him at a gala. Now he fights crime in a Navy suit. About halfway through the evening, I found Lauren in the lobby talking to some guy I didn't recognize. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of haircut that costs $80. She was laughing and standing way too close. When she saw me, she took a step back. Caleb, this is Garrett. He's one of our top agents. Garrett shook my hand. Good grip, direct eye contact. He didn't seem like a bad guy, honestly. He probably had no idea Lauren had a boyfriend until 30 seconds ago. I looked at Lauren. She was watching me with this nervous energy, like she was waiting for me to cause a scene. That's what she expected. Some jealous boyfriend moment that would prove she was right to be embarrassed of me. Nice to meet you, man, I said to Garrett. Then I turned to Lauren. Hey, I'm gonna head out. Early morning tomorrow. Already? The relief that washed over her face. Man, that told me everything. She wanted me gone so she could go back to being single Lauren. Okay, drive safe. Quick little peck on the cheek, the kind you give your uncle at a family dinner. I walked out of that hotel and felt lighter than I had in months, like I'd been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. I drove straight to our apartment, grabbed the last box by the door. My keys, a note I'd written that morning. Put the keys on the kitchen counter and left the note next to them. The note said, Hey Lauren, moved out. Figured I'd make it official since you already told everyone we weren't together. The lease office knows you'll need to sign a new one or find someone else. I canceled my half of everything. Utilities are in your name now. Don't worry about the furniture, keep it. I left your favorite coffee mug on the counter. Take care of yourself. Caleb. No insults, no accusations, no paragraphs of feelings. Just facts. Clean, calm, and final. Then I drove to Trent's place, carried my last box up the stairs, and sat down on a folding chair in a mostly empty room. And I breathed. Actually breathed. For the first time in months. My phone started going off around midnight. Lauren must have come home and found the note. 6 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then the texts. Where are you? What is this? This isn't funny, Caleb. Call me back. Are you serious right now? You can't just leave like this. We need to talk. What did I do? What did I do? That one almost made me laugh out loud. Almost. I didn't respond. Not that night. She called 12 more times. Left 4 voicemails that I listened to the next morning while eating cereal in my new kitchen. The first one was angry. The second was confused. The third was crying. The fourth was angry again, but the kind of angry that's really just panic dressed up in a louder voice. Wait. What did I do? She said, what did I do? If lack of self-awareness was a competitive sport, this woman would be banned for performance enhancers. She spent months scrubbing this man from her Instagram, calling him her roommate, rebranding his job title at parties, and now she's standing in a half-empty apartment going, what did I do? Like someone rearranged the furniture while she was out. Ma'am, he removed himself from the apartment in stages over 2 weeks, and you didn't notice your own closet getting emptier. That's not a breakup. That's a magic trick. And the magician already left the building. Caleb, wherever you are eating that cereal, respect. 2 days later, I finally texted her. One message, said I wasn't coming back, that I'd heard the phone call with Kenzie weeks ago, that I knew she'd been telling people we weren't together, and that I was just making her story match reality. No hard feelings. Wished her well. She called immediately. I didn't pick up. She texted a wall of text. How she didn't mean it. How she was just trying to fit in at work. How it was stupid, and she was sorry. How she loved me, and this was all a misunderstanding. Funny how it's a misunderstanding now. When I was standing right there in the apartment, it was just how things were. But the second I'm gone, suddenly it's a mistake. Her mom called me. That was the hardest one. She was genuinely sweet about it. Said she had no idea Lauren was acting that way, and that I deserved better. I told her I appreciated everything she'd done for me, and that her daughter was going to be fine. She just needed to figure out what she actually wanted instead of keeping one foot in two different lives. Lauren showed up at my job site 3 days later. Just pulled into the parking lot and sat in her car until I came out for lunch. She looked rough. No makeup, hair pulled back, wearing a hoodie I recognized as one she'd stolen from me early in our relationship. Eyes red like she'd been crying all morning, or hadn't slept in days. Probably both. She asked if we could talk. I said there wasn't much to talk about. She said she messed up. I said yeah, she did. She said she wanted another chance, and started listing all these things she'd do differently. She'd post about me on social media. She'd bring me to every work event. She'd tell everyone at the firm about her amazing boyfriend. And honestly, that made it worse. Because she still didn't get it. She thought the problem was scheduling. Like if she just adjusted her social media strategy and her event calendar, everything would be fixed. She didn't understand that the problem was she looked at me one day and decided I wasn't good enough for the life she was building. And no amount of Instagram posts was going to undo that. I told her that the version of herself she'd been showing to those people at work, the single girl with no attachments who was too good for her HVAC boyfriend. That's who she chose to be. I was just respecting her choice. She cried, right there in the parking lot. And 6 months ago, that would have destroyed me. I would have folded, told her it was okay, let her convince me things would be different. But standing there in my work boots and my company shirt with grease on my hands, I realized something. She wasn't crying because she missed me. She was crying because the safety net was gone. The apartment was going to be expensive alone. The image she'd built at work was about to crumble because her mom had already been telling everyone about her boyfriend, and now there was no boyfriend. The guy she'd been standing close to at the gala, he was just a guy at work. He wasn't going to step up the way I did. Nobody was. She wasn't losing me. She was losing what I provided. The stability, the reliability, the person who'd always be there no matter how badly she treated him. I told her I hoped she figured things out, and I meant it. I didn't hate her. Wasn't even angry anymore. I was just done. Final update. The weeks after that were quiet in the best way. I'd wake up in my new place, make coffee in my little kitchen, drive to work, come home, cook dinner, watch whatever I wanted. No one making me feel like I wasn't enough. No one pretending I didn't exist until they needed something. Trent told me through mutual friends that Lauren was struggling. The apartment was too expensive on her own. She'd been scrambling to find a roommate. Turns out it's hard to find one on short notice when your rent is built for 2 incomes. A couple of her work friends had distanced themselves once the truth came out that she'd been lying about being single while having a live-in boyfriend. Apparently, the gala was particularly awkward because her mom had been telling everyone about her wonderful boyfriend Caleb, and then people started connecting that with what Lauren had been saying privately. One of the partners apparently pulled her aside and asked if she'd been misrepresenting her personal life to colleagues. Not a great conversation when you've been at a company less than a year. Not a good look when your job is built on trust and relationships. The mutual friends thing was interesting too. Our friend group kind of split at first. Some people heard Lauren's version, that I blindsided her and left without warning. But then the real story started getting around. The phone call, the roommate comment, the months of being hidden. People changed their tune quick. My buddy Will, who I hadn't talked to in a while, texted me and said, "Dude, I had no idea. She told everyone you guys were great." I told him that's the whole point. She was great at telling people things that weren't true. Last week, I was finishing up a job at a restaurant that needed their whole system overhauled. Big project, good money. The owner was this older guy named Ray, who'd been in the restaurant business for 30 years. We got to talking while I was packing up my tools, and he asked how business was going. I told him things were good, that I'd actually been thinking about going independent, starting my own operation. I had the skills, the certifications, the client relationships. Just hadn't pulled the trigger. Ray looked at me and said, "Son, the people who wait for the perfect time to start never start." Good advice from a guy who opened his first restaurant with $600 and a borrowed pizza oven. I went home that night and started sketching out a business plan. Nothing fancy, just numbers, timelines, what I'd need. Sat there at my little desk in my little apartment and realized I was excited about something for the first time in a long time. Not because someone else made me feel that way, because I did it myself. Oh, and one more thing. Kenzie texted me last week, completely out of nowhere. She'd left the real estate firm for a different company and just wanted me to know she'd always felt bad about how things went down. Said Lauren had been telling a very different version at work, making it sound like I abandoned her, that I was the one who checked out. I told Kenzie the truth, all of it. The phone call, the months of being hidden, the gala performance, the note. She sent back one message. Wow. Then after a minute, she sent another one. You want to grab coffee sometime? Not in a weird way. I just think you're good company, and I could use more of that. I said, sure, why not? We're getting coffee this Saturday. No expectations, no games, no pretending to be something I'm not. Just two people being honest with each other. Imagine that. Lauren texted me yesterday. 3 months of silence and then out of nowhere. I hope you're doing well. I miss what we had. I looked at that message for about 10 seconds. Then I put my phone down, went back to my business plan spreadsheet, and didn't reply. She missed what we had. Nah, she missed what I gave. And that's not the same thing. So Reddit, would you have done anything differently? Because I've been going back and forth on whether leaving the way I did was the right move. But honestly, I don't think you can abandon someone who already decided you weren't there. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend Caleb's some perfect dude who never made a mistake. But when your girlfriend is out here rebranding your job title, wiping you from her Instagram, and telling coworkers you're the guy who helps with rent, you don't argue about it. You make the story true. That's not petty. That's just matching energy with a receipt attached. And starting a business plan the same month, that's a glow-up that doesn't need a filter. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done differently? And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button because we hit stories like this every single day and you don't want to miss the next one. My mom said, your brother is the smart one. You're just the one with money. Without your wallet, you're nothing. I said, let's test that. Close the wallet. She's still talking about him. I'm still not taking her calls. Hey, Reddit. So my mom basically told me I'm worthless without my bank account, then got real surprised when I actually closed said bank account. Here we are 6 months later, and she's still leaving voicemails about how unreasonable I'm being. Spoiler alert, I'm not picking up. I'm 29, and I've spent the better part of a decade being the family ATM. My younger brother Cameron is 26, and according to our mother, he's basically Einstein mixed with Steve Jobs and a dash of Mother Teresa. Me, I'm just the guy with the checkbook. That's it. That's my entire value to this family. Let me paint you a picture of how we got here, because this didn't happen overnight. This was years of buildup, years of me being treated like a walking wallet with legs, and years of Cameron being worshipped despite accomplishing exactly nothing with his life. Growing up, Cameron was the favorite, not even subtle about it. Mom would hang his mediocre art projects on the fridge like they belonged in the Louvre, while my actual achievements got a distracted nod. I made honor roll every semester through middle and high school. Cameron barely passed his classes. But when report cards came out, Mom would spend an hour dissecting Cameron's grades, talking about his potential, his creativity, how traditional education just didn't suit his brilliant mind. My straight A's got a thumbs up and maybe a pat on the head if I was lucky. The difference continued into our adult lives. Cameron went to community college for about 3 semesters before deciding that formal education was stifling his entrepreneurial spirit. Translation: he was failing and didn't want to admit it. He moved back home and started what he called his design business. In reality, he made logos on Fiverr for like $20 a pop and called himself a creative director. Mom told everyone her son was running his own company. Me? I went to State University, graduated with a degree in supply chain management, and got hired at a logistics company right out of school. Nothing fancy, nothing glamorous. I coordinate shipments, manage inventory systems, and deal with angry clients when their pallets don't show up on time. It's steady work. It pays well. It's boring as hell, but it's reliable. Mom never understood what I did for work. She'd introduce me at family gatherings as someone who works with trucks or something. Meanwhile, Cameron's Fiverr hustle was described as running a boutique creative agency. The dude lived in our parents' basement and made maybe $800 a month on a good month. But sure, Mom, he's a CEO. About 5 years ago, I moved out and got my own place. Nothing crazy, just a decent two-bedroom apartment about 30 minutes from my parents' house. I was making around 60 grand at the time, which was enough to live comfortably and start building some actual savings. This is important for later. Cameron naturally stayed home, rent-free, bill-free. He had this whole setup in the basement with his gaming PC and his design software, and Mom would bring him meals like he was recovering from surgery. Dad mostly checked out of the favoritism game years ago. He'd just shrug and say Mom knows best, which was his way of avoiding conflict. The money requests started small. Mom would call and say the water heater broke. Could I chip in a couple hundred? Or Cameron needed new equipment for his business. Could I help out since I had a steady paycheck? Or Dad's car needed repairs, and they were a bit short this month. It was always something. And like an absolute chump, I always said yes. Because that's what you do, right? You help family. You don't keep score. You support each other. All that wholesome garbage we're taught growing up about family coming first. But it kept escalating. The requests got bigger, more frequent, more urgent. And it was always framed like I was the bad guy if I hesitated. Mom had this way of making me feel guilty for having money when they needed it. Like I was hoarding wealth while they struggled, even though I was struggling too. I was saving for a house. I was trying to build something for myself. But every time I got close to hitting my savings goals, some family emergency would appear, and there went 2 grand. The thing is, these weren't really emergencies. I started noticing that. The water heater that broke, they'd been talking about replacing it for years because it was old, but they never saved for it. Cameron's new equipment? He didn't need a $1,500 tablet to make logos. He wanted it. There's a difference. Dad's car repairs? Maintenance he'd been putting off for months. They weren't in crisis. They were just bad with money, and I was enabling it. But Cameron was the real drain. Every few months, he'd have some new business idea that required startup capital. A dropshipping store, a print-on-demand t-shirt line, a YouTube channel about productivity, a podcast about mindfulness. None of them ever went anywhere, but Mom always believed this was the one that would take off. And she'd call me asking if I could invest in my brother's future. I gave him probably 15 grand over the years for various ventures. None of them made back a single cent. But according to Mom, this just proved how innovative he was. He was ahead of his time. The market wasn't ready. He needed better resources. It was never that his ideas sucked or that he had zero work ethic. It was always external factors holding back his genius. Last year, I got promoted to senior coordinator. Came with a nice bump in pay, brought me up to around 85 grand. I didn't tell my parents immediately because I knew what would happen. But Mom found out somehow, probably from my aunt who I stupidly mentioned it to at a family barbecue. The phone calls intensified. Now that I was making more, surely I could help more. Cameron needed a new laptop because his old one was slow. Mom and Dad wanted to redo their kitchen. Could I pitch in? Cameron's car died. Could I co-sign on a loan since his credit was non-existent? He'd make the payments, obviously. Spoiler, he did not make the payments, and I ended up covering them to save my credit score. I was hemorrhaging money to these people while still living in my same basic apartment because I couldn't save enough for a down payment. Meanwhile, Cameron was playing video games in the basement between his part-time logo gigs, and Mom was planning their kitchen renovation that I was apparently funding. The breaking point came about 7 months ago at Dad's birthday dinner. We went to this Italian place Dad likes. Nothing too fancy, but nice enough that you're dropping $60 a head by the time appetizers and dessert are included. I offered to pay for dinner because it's Dad's birthday, and I'm not a monster. We're sitting there, and somehow the conversation turns to Cameron's latest idea. He wanted to start a consulting business. What kind of consulting, you ask? Excellent question. He had no idea. Just consulting. For businesses. About things. He'd figure out the specifics later. But he needed money for a website, business cards, and a LinkedIn premium subscription. I'm sitting there, picking at my chicken parm, half listening to this pitch I've heard 17 variations of, when Mom says she's so proud of Cameron for being such a visionary, for thinking outside the box, for not settling for some boring corporate job. That stung. But I let it go. I'm used to the subtle digs at my career. Then she turns to me and says, real casual, like she's commenting on the weather, whether I could help Cameron get this consulting thing off the ground. She's thinking maybe 5 grand should cover it. 5 grand. For business cards and a website that he could make himself with the design software I'd already bought him. 5 grand. I said no. Politely, but firmly. I said I'd already helped fund multiple business ideas that hadn't worked out, and I didn't think this was a good investment. Mom's face did this thing, this tight smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She put down her fork and said, well, it must be nice to be so comfortable that you can just dismiss your brother's dreams like that. Dad mumbled something about not fighting at dinner. Cameron just sat there scrolling his phone, not even defending himself. Why would he? Mom always did that for him. I should have left it alone. I should have just nodded and changed the subject. But something in me snapped. Maybe it was hearing my job called boring for the millionth time. Maybe it was being treated like an ATM disguised as a son. Maybe it was watching Cameron sit there, completely unbothered, while Mom guilt-tripped me into funding his lifestyle. I said that Cameron was 26 years old, still living at home, making barely enough to cover gas money, and had never completed a single project he'd started. Maybe instead of throwing more money at failed ideas, he should get a regular job and learn some responsibility. The table went quiet, like dead silent. You could hear the kitchen staff arguing in Italian from across the restaurant. Mom's face went from tight smile to something I'd never seen before. Pure anger. She leaned forward and said in this cold voice that Cameron was the smart one in the family, the creative one, the one with real potential. Then she looked right at me and said, "I was just the one with money." She said, and I'm quoting here because these words are burned into my brain, "Without your wallet, you're nothing. Cameron has talent, intelligence, vision. You just have a paycheck. That's the only reason we keep you around." Dad didn't say anything. Cameron didn't look up from his phone. The waiter approached with dessert menus, took one look at our table, and backed away slowly. I sat there for a second, processing what my mother just said to me, that my only value was money, that without it, I'm nothing, that they keep me around because I'm useful. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and took out enough cash to cover my portion of the meal, tax, and tip. I put it on the table. Then I looked at Mom and said, "You know what? Let's test that theory." She looked confused. I clarified. "If I'm nothing without my wallet, and you only keep me around because of it, then let's see what happens when the wallet closes. Starting now." Cameron finally looked up from his phone. Dad's eyes went wide. Mom's face went through several emotions real quick, landing on this nervous laugh. She said I was being dramatic, that I was twisting her words, that she obviously didn't mean it like that. But she did. We both knew she did. And I was done pretending otherwise. I walked out of that restaurant, and I haven't given them a cent since. Not a dollar. Not a favor. Nothing. The first week was blissfully quiet. I think they assumed I was blowing off steam and would come around once I calmed down. Mom sent a text saying we should talk, but kept it vague. I didn't respond. Week 2, the calls started. Not from Mom directly at first, but from Dad. Awkward calls where he'd talk about random stuff, weather and sports, clearly working up to asking me to reconsider. I'd let him talk, then say I had to go. He never quite got to the ask. Cameron called once, only once, asked if I was still mad about dinner. I said no, I'm not mad. I'm just done being the family bank. He said I was being petty. I hung up. Week 3, Mom left a voicemail. Cameron's car payment was due, the one I'd co-signed for, and he couldn't cover it. She wasn't asking me to pay it, she said, just to talk to the loan company about extending the due date or something. I didn't call back. I paid the minimum to keep my credit intact and added it to the running tab of money they owed me that I'd never see again. By week 4, the tone shifted. Mom left another voicemail saying she'd been thinking about what she said at dinner, and maybe it came out wrong. She didn't apologize, mind you, just said it came out wrong. She wanted to explain what she really meant. I didn't call back. Week 6, Dad called and actually said they needed help. The kitchen renovation they'd started, the one they apparently began before securing all the funding, was halfway done, and they'd run out of money. The contractor was threatening to walk. Could I just loan them enough to finish it? He'd pay me back. Sure, Dad, like all those other times you paid me back. I told him no, wished him luck with the contractor, and hung up. This is when Mom started showing up at my apartment. I'd come home from work and find her sitting in her car in the visitor parking. The first time, I ignored her and went inside. She knocked on my door for 10 minutes before giving up. The second time, I told her through the door that I had nothing to say to her. The third time, I threatened to call security if she didn't leave. The extended family got involved. My aunt called, the one I'd mentioned the promotion to. She said Mom was really torn up about this, and families fight sometimes. But I was taking it too far. I asked if Mom told her what she said to me at dinner. My aunt went quiet, then said, "Well, even if she said something hurtful, she's my mother, and I should forgive her." I asked if Mom had apologized. Aunt said Mom shouldn't have to apologize for speaking her mind in frustration. I hung up. My cousin sent me a Facebook message saying I was destroying the family over money, and that was pretty messed up. I screenshot the message, posted it to my story with the caption "Actually, it's about respect, but go off," and blocked him. 3 months in, and Mom was still calling weekly. The voicemails got longer. She'd talk about how Cameron was struggling, how Dad was stressed, how I was being selfish and childish, how family was supposed to stick together, how I'd regret this someday. Never once did she say sorry for what she said. Never once did she acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, she was wrong. Cameron, meanwhile, had to get an actual job. Mom called it a tragedy. He was working at a sporting goods store, part-time, making minimum wage. According to Mom's voicemails, this was destroying his creative spirit. He couldn't focus on his business ideas because he was exhausted from standing at a register for 6 hours. The horror. Welcome to the real world, little brother. The kitchen renovation never got finished. They're apparently living with half-done cabinets and no backsplash. Dad complained about it to me during one of his awkward check-in calls. I suggested he talk to Cameron about contributing to the household, since he's living there rent-free. Dad changed the subject. Around month 4, Mom tried a different approach. She called and left a voicemail saying she understood why I was hurt and we should sit down and talk it through like adults. She suggested we meet for coffee. Neutral ground. Just talk. I almost considered it. For like 10 seconds. Then I remembered exactly what she said at that dinner. Without your wallet, you're nothing. That's not something you say in the heat of the moment and take back later. That's how she really sees me. That's what she really thinks. So, no, Mom. I'm not meeting you for coffee so you can manipulate me into opening my wallet again. I'm good. Month 5, Cameron apparently moved out. Not into his own place, obviously, because that would require money and responsibility. He moved in with his girlfriend, some girl he'd been seeing for a few months. Mom called it a positive step toward independence. I called it him finding a new person to mooch off of. Poor girl had no idea what she was in for. The calls from Mom got more desperate. Now Cameron wasn't around to help with stuff around the house, and they couldn't afford to hire people for basic maintenance. Could I at least come over and help fix the fence? Or clean the gutters? I didn't respond. There are services for that. They cost money. Figure it out. Dad called and straight up asked how long I was planning to keep this up. I said as long as it takes. He asked what that meant. I said until Mom apologizes for what she said and means it. Not one of those I'm sorry you feel that way apologies. A real one. Dad sighed and said, Mom's not good at apologizing. I said that sounds like a mom problem. Month 6, which is where we are now, and Mom left a voicemail that was different from the others. She sounded tired. Said she didn't understand why I was doing this. Said she was my mother and she loved me and family was supposed to be forever. Said she'd always be there when I came to my senses. Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement of what she said. Still no recognition that maybe, just maybe, treating your kid like a walking ATM for a decade was wrong. Just confusion about why I dare stand up for myself. And here's the thing, Reddit. I don't miss them. I don't miss the calls asking for money. I don't miss the guilt trips. I don't miss watching Cameron get praised for doing nothing while my accomplishments got dismissed. I don't miss being treated like my only value was my bank account. My life is actually better now. I'm saving money again. Real money. I'm on track to actually put a down payment on a house next year. I picked up some hobbies I'd been putting off because I was always too stressed about the next financial request. I started rock climbing at a gym near my apartment. I'm learning to cook actual meals instead of living on takeout. I'm sleeping better. Cutting them off was the healthiest thing I've ever done for myself. The extended family still tries to guilt trip me occasionally. Last week, my uncle called and said I should really reconsider this whole thing because family is important. I asked if he'd been funding his siblings' lifestyles for the past decade. He said that was different. I asked how. He couldn't answer. I told him to have a nice day and hung up. My aunt sent me a text yesterday saying Mom cried at a family gathering because I wasn't there, that I was breaking her heart, that she didn't understand what she did wrong. I didn't respond, but I wanted to. I wanted to text back a transcript of that dinner conversation. But honestly, what's the point? They've all chosen sides. They've all decided I'm the bad guy for having boundaries. Cameron hasn't reached out since that one call months ago. Not surprised. He never wanted a relationship with me. Just access to my wallet. Now that the wallet's closed, I'm useless to him. Kind of proves Mom's point, doesn't it? Except she thought that made me worthless. I think it makes them worthless. Last week I got a letter in the mail. Actual handwritten letter from Mom. First line was, I don't understand why you're doing this to our family. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. Not, I was wrong. Just confusion about why I won't play my role as the family ATM anymore. She wrote about how Cameron is really struggling now, how he's working 2 jobs, his relationship with his girlfriend is strained, and he's stressed all the time. She said I should be proud that he's finally being responsible, and maybe now would be a good time to help him get back on his feet. You know, now that he's learned his lesson or whatever. I read the letter twice, then threw it away. Because here's what Mom doesn't get. Cameron isn't struggling because I won't help him anymore. Cameron's struggling because he's 26 years old and has no skills, no work ethic, and no concept of financial responsibility. That's not my fault. That's hers. She enabled this. She created this situation by never making him stand on his own 2 feet, and she wants me to swoop in and save him again so he can go right back to being the same entitled brat he's always been. Hard pass, Mom. The letter ended with this line that really got me. No matter what happens, I'll always be your mother, and I'll always love you. Just wish you'd remember that blood is thicker than water. Except that's not even the full saying. The actual phrase is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning the relationships you choose are more important than the ones you're born into. Funny how everyone always gets that wrong. And Mom has no idea how right she accidentally was. Because I am choosing my relationships now. I'm choosing not to have people in my life who see me as nothing more than a funding source. I'm choosing not to enable a grown man who refuses to grow up. I'm choosing not to accept abuse disguised as family obligation. My coworker asked me last week if I ever think about reaching out, if I miss having a family. I told him the truth. I don't miss being used. I don't miss being disrespected. I don't miss being taken for granted. And if that's what family means to them, then they can keep it. He asked what I'd do if Mom actually apologized. Like really apologized. I told him I'd probably consider it, but she won't. Because in her mind, she didn't do anything wrong. I'm just being sensitive. I'm just being petty. I'm just throwing away family over money, which is exactly what she accused me of being obsessed with in the first place. The irony is completely lost on her. Someone else at work suggested maybe I was being too harsh, that parents make mistakes and I should give her another chance. I asked if their parents ever told them they were worthless without their bank account. They went quiet. Exactly. There's a difference between normal family friction and being told your only value is financial. One of those things you work through. The other, you walk away from. Someone at work suggested family therapy. I laughed. Can you imagine? Sitting in some therapist's office while Mom explains how I've abandoned the family, and the therapist nods sympathetically. Then I'd have to explain that I was told my only value was my bank account, and Mom would say that's not what she meant, and we'd go in circles for an hour. No thanks. I'll save my money and sanity. My phone is full of unheard voicemails from Mom. I don't delete them, but I don't listen to them either. They're just there, piling up, a digital monument to her inability to say 2 simple words. I'm sorry. Cameron called from a different number last month. I picked up before checking the caller ID. He asked how long I was planning to keep this grudge going. I said it's not a grudge, it's a boundary. He said that was the same thing. I said no, it's really not, and hung up. He didn't call back. I ran into my cousin at the grocery store 2 weeks ago, the one who sent me that Facebook message. He pretended not to see me, but we ended up in the same checkout line. Awkward as hell. He finally said, "Hey." I mumbled something back, and we both stared at our phones until one of us could leave. Fine by me. I'm not interested in fake pleasantries with people who think I'm the villain in this story. Here's what nobody seems to get. I'm not punishing them. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Punishment would be actively trying to hurt them or get revenge. Protection is simply removing myself from a situation that was hurting me. They can frame it however they want, but I know what this is. The money I've saved since cutting them off is sitting in my house fund. I'm up to almost 40 grand now. Another year or so, and I'll have enough for a real down payment on a house that I'm buying with money I earned that nobody can guilt me into giving away. I've been looking at listings online. Nothing fancy, just a small starter home in a decent neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, maybe a small yard. Something that's mine. Something nobody can take from me or make me feel guilty for having. My realtor asked if I was planning to have family visit once I bought a place. I said no, probably not. She looked surprised but didn't push it. I appreciated that. I'm tired of people assuming family automatically equals love and support. Sometimes family equals toxicity and obligation. The rock climbing gym has become my new hangout spot. I go 3 times a week now. Met some cool people there. Nobody asks about my family. Nobody knows about any of this drama. I'm just a guy who's getting pretty decent at bouldering and occasionally falls on his face trying routes that are too advanced. It's refreshing. One of the guys from the gym, Jake, invited me to a barbecue at his place next month. Just a chill thing with some friends from the climbing community. I said yes. First social event I've agreed to in months. It felt good. Normal. Like maybe I could build something here. A chosen family instead of an obligated one. Mom left a voicemail last week saying Cameron and his girlfriend broke up. Apparently, She couldn't handle him not contributing to rent and bills. Shocking. Mom's trying to get him to move back home, but Dad's putting his foot down for once. Says Cameron needs to figure it out. Good for Dad. Only took him 26 years to set a boundary. Mom hinted in the voicemail that maybe I knew of any job openings at my company, because apparently I'm still expected to help, even though I'm supposedly worthless without my wallet. The disconnect is stunning. I didn't respond, obviously. I've been thinking about blocking their numbers. Haven't done it yet. Not sure why. Maybe some part of me is still hoping for that real apology. Maybe I'm just leaving the door open a crack in case they ever wake up and realize how messed up this all is. Or maybe I'm just not ready to completely close that chapter yet. But I'm getting there. I've been sitting with the question of what resolution would even look like. What would it take for me to consider letting them back into my life? I thought about it for a while. An actual apology from Mom. Not an excuse. Not a justification. Not an, I'm sorry you felt that way. A real acknowledgement that what she said was wrong and hurtful. Some recognition that they've been using me financially for years. And that wasn't okay. That I'm not a bad son for having boundaries. Changed behavior. Not promises of change. Actual demonstrated change over time. Cameron supporting himself. Mom respecting my decisions. Dad standing up for me instead of playing neutral. Honestly, I don't think those things will happen. But it's good to know what I need even if I'll never get it. At least I'm clear on my boundaries now. I've started dating again. Nothing serious, just casual coffee dates and dinner now and then. It's nice. One woman asked about my family, and I gave her the abbreviated version. She said she respected that I had boundaries. We're going out again next week. Baby steps. My car has been making a weird noise. In the past, I'd probably have ignored it because I'd just emptied my savings on some family emergency. Now, I took it to the mechanic, paid the $800 repair bill, and didn't think twice about it. Because that's my money. For my life. For my stuff. What a concept. I got my performance review last week. Stellar, as usual. Boss hinted at another promotion in the next year or so. Asked if I'd be interested in taking on more responsibility. I said absolutely, because I like my boring corporate job. It's stable. It pays well. And it's mine. Nobody gets to call it worthless. The kitchen in my apartment is small, but I've been experimenting with cooking. Made a pretty decent stir-fry last night. Watching YouTube videos to learn techniques. It's actually fun. Relaxing even. Never had time for this kind of thing before because I was always stressed about money or dealing with some family drama. I've been thinking about getting a dog. The apartment complex allows them with a deposit. Nothing huge, maybe a rescue mutt. Something to keep me company. Something that won't judge me or demand money or tell me I'm worthless. Just a good boy who's happy to see me when I come home. Seems like a good trade. My birthday is next month. Usually there'd be a family dinner. Awkward conversations. Forced smiles. Cameron showing up late. Mom taking 500 photos for Facebook. Dad trying to keep everyone happy. I'm not doing that this year. Jake from the gym asked if I wanted to grab drinks with some people from our climbing group. I said yes. That's my birthday plan. Climb some routes, get some food, hang out with people who don't want anything from me except good company. Mom will probably call on my birthday. Leave some emotional voicemail about how she misses me and wishes things were different. I might listen to it. Might not. Depends on how I'm feeling. But I won't call back. Not until she says what needs to be said. Cameron will probably forget it's my birthday entirely. That's fine. We haven't acknowledged each other's birthdays in years. At least now I'm not expected to send him money disguised as a birthday gift. Dad will text, something short and awkward. Hope you have a good day, son. Miss you. Or something like that. I'll probably text back a thanks. Because I don't hate Dad. He's just weak. He let Mom run the show for so long that he forgot how to stand up for anything. But he's not malicious like Mom can be. He's just passive. And that's almost worse in some ways. I've been sleeping better. Didn't realize how much the family stuff was affecting me until it stopped. No more random calls disrupting my day. No more guilt hanging over me. No more checking my bank account with dread, wondering how much this month's family emergency was going to cost me. Just peace. The other day I was sitting on my couch watching a show, eating takeout because I didn't feel like cooking, and I realized I was content. Actually content. Not happy in a jumping up and down way. Just calm, satisfied, at peace with my life and my choices. When's the last time I felt that way? Probably never. This is what they took from me for years. This feeling of being okay with myself and my life. They made me feel like I was never doing enough, never giving enough, never being enough. And all of it was so they could avoid taking responsibility for their own choices and failures. Mom thinks I'm punishing her by not answering her calls. She thinks I'm being stubborn, Childish. Ungrateful. She tells the extended family I'm throwing away family over money. She frames herself as the victim in all this. Poor mom, whose son won't speak to her over some little comment at dinner months ago. But here's the thing she'll never understand. I don't care if she tells everyone I'm the bad guy. I don't care if the whole family thinks I'm wrong. I don't care if they never speak to me again. Because their opinion of me doesn't define my worth. My job doesn't define my worth. My bank account doesn't define my worth. I define my worth. And I'm worth more than being someone's ATM. That's what mom said at that dinner, whether she meant to or not. She said I'm nothing without my wallet. She said the only reason they keep me around is because I have money. And you know what? She was right about one thing. I am nothing to them without my wallet. But I'm something to myself. I'm a guy who works hard, who pays his bills on time, who's learning to rock climb and cook and be okay alone, who's saving for a house, who's building a life that makes him happy instead of making everyone else comfortable. I'm something, just not to them. And I'm okay with that now. Took me a while to get here. Months of anger and hurt and guilt and questioning whether I was making the right choice. But I'm here now, on the other side of it, and it's better here. So mom can keep calling. She can keep leaving voicemails about how I'm abandoning the family. She can keep telling anyone who'll listen that I'm selfish and cold and all the other things she needs to believe to make herself the victim. I don't care anymore. Cameron can keep struggling with his jobs and his relationships and his total lack of life skills. That's not my problem to fix. It never was. He's an adult. Time for him to act like one. Dad can keep being neutral and passive and hoping everyone will just get along eventually. That's his choice. But I'm not going to be the one who gives in just to keep the peace. Peace at what cost? My self-respect? My financial security? My mental health? No thanks. The wallet's closed, Mom. And it's staying that way. You said I was nothing without it. I said, let's test that. 6 months later, I'm doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. Meanwhile, you're the one calling me, leaving desperate voicemails, sending letters, getting the family involved. You're the one who can't seem to move on. Turns out I wasn't nothing without the wallet. But maybe you're nothing without it. That's the real test, isn't it? Who needs who more? You spent years making me feel like I needed you. Like family was everything. Like I'd be lost without you guys. But I'm not lost. I'm right here, living my life, making my plans, being content. You're the one who's lost without me, without my money, without my help, without someone to blame and use and take for granted. And now you don't know what to do. So keep calling, Mom. Keep leaving those voicemails. I've got plenty of storage space on my phone. They can sit there unheard along with all the other things you've said that I've chosen not to accept anymore. Because that's what this is really about. Not money, not family, not even that comment at dinner, though that was the catalyst. This is about me choosing not to accept being treated like garbage anymore. It's about deciding that my peace and happiness matter more than maintaining a relationship with people who don't respect me. And if that makes me the bad guy in your story, I can live with that. Because I'm the hero in my story. And that's the only story that matters. The wallet's closed, Mom. I'm good. Actually good. For the first time in years. You wanted to test whether I was nothing without it. Test complete. Results are in. I'm doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, that's what I thought. Update. It's been a couple weeks since I posted this. Figured I'd add an update since some stuff has happened. Mom found the post. Don't ask me how, but she did. My cousin apparently sent it to her after recognizing some of the details. Small world, I guess. She called 16 times in one day. 16. I didn't answer, obviously, but I did listen to the voicemails because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment. The first few were angry. How dare I air family business online? How dare I make her look bad? How dare I tell strangers about private matters? Classic mom, making it about her reputation instead of her behavior. The middle ones were sad, lots of crying and saying she didn't raise me to be this cruel. And the last few were back to angry, saying if I wanted to cut her off, fine. But posting about it online was a new low. Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement. Just anger that I told the truth about what happened. Dad called too. Just once. Said he read the post and that I wasn't being fair. That mom had her faults but she loved me. That I was hurting her. I asked if he remembered what she said at that dinner. He went quiet, then said, "Your mother says things when she's frustrated." I asked if that made it okay. He sighed and said no. But that's not a reason to do this. I told him I disagreed and hung up. Cameron sent me a text. First time he's reached out in months. It just said, "Real mature, bro. Enjoy your internet points." I didn't respond. What's the point? He's still living in a world where he's the victim, and I'm the bad guy. The extended family has mostly gone silent. I think they finally realized I'm not backing down. Or maybe they read the post, and some of them saw themselves in the people enabling mom's behavior. Either way, the guilt trip calls have stopped. That's something. Jake invited me to meet his family at a barbecue next weekend. His sister's visiting from out of state. I said yes. That's weird, right? Meeting a friend's family? Doing normal family stuff with people who aren't related to me? But it feels less weird than going back to my actual family at this point. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.